Well, thank you very much, Andrew. Good morning, everybody. What a pleasure, what a privilege to be here at this incredible firm, Europa, which, of course, is the single market. This is it. This is the absolute quintessential British success in Europe and will remain so in or out of the European Union, my friend. By the way, I apologise for being late. We need to take back control of South East trains, apart from anything else. And about time TfL were given the running of those. Now listen, this morning I want you to imagine, we are all cold, I want you to imagine that the EU, imagine a world in which the EU had never been invented. And the post-war history of Europe was a story of naturally, organically growing trade and economic interpenetration, travel, tourism, friendship, intermarriage, peace guaranteed, as indeed it has been by the NATO nuclear umbrella for the last 70 years. Let's imagine that's what had happened. And then let's suppose somebody came to us all today, 2016, and said, bonjour, or guten tag, or ciao. We've got this brilliant idea for a new project to take all these higgledy-piggledy nations and turn them into a single political unit with a single currency and gradually moving, actually ever more rapidly, towards a single system of government. Yeah? And you Brits will have to sign up for virtually all of it except the single currency. And you say, well, okay, sounds a bit mad, a bit idealistic, but you ask, how does it work? And they say, well, first of all, you've got to give up the right to make your own laws. Already Brussels is producing between a half, according to the House of Commons, or some say 2/3 of everything that goes through Parliament, and your courts, your Parliament, is getting overruled more and more, often deciding everything from how old a child has to be before he or she can blow up a balloon, to the height of the brilliant Europa trailers that you got outside. They've got some rule that says they can't be more than 4 meters because I don't know what the reason is. We don't have any such. We don't need any such rule in this country. We have a perfectly sensible rule which says don't crash into bridges, which is how we do it. And we don't need that rule. It doesn't operate here, but they insist on a rule which is totally against common sense, adding to bureaucracy, adding to costs. They tell us how powerful our vacuum cleaners can be, and it's growing the whole time. They tell us who we can have into this country. They restrict our ability to deport criminals and people who are a threat to the security of this country. And then that's the offer. And you say, well, as you think about this proposal that we should join such a club, you say, well, I suppose it must be a good idea for economic efficiency or something. I suppose it might save us money. And they say to you, no, dear me, no, may not. It means about 2,500 new regulations every year from the EU, costing British business about £600 million a week. And you think, well, what kind of a club is that? And you say, well, it must be good for jobs and growth then. Is it? You ask the proponents of this club, and they say, and they laugh a hollow laugh, and they say, no, you must be joking. The euro, which is the signature policy of the current European Union, is an engine of jobs destruction. And you've got massive unemployment in the EU, the southern EU member states. You've got youth unemployment running on average at about 22%. You've got relations now between some of the EU countries, between Germany and Greece, for instance, so bad that you've had anti-German riots. Recently you've got the far right on the rise in many parts of the EU. Because one of the features of this project is that this is what they tell you when they're proposing it to us, you won't be able to control your borders anymore. And you'll have massive net immigration that puts unexpected pressures on local councils, on social services, and of course on GP surgeries, on health provision in this country. And you say, well, you think about that, the offer from that point of view, and you say, well, it sounds a bit deranged, frankly, when you put it like that. If that's the offer, that's the club you want us to join. And you say, well, how much will you pay us to join this club of yours then? Because there must be, something in it for us. And they say, no, mais non. We don't pay you. You pay us. And you give us £20 billion a year, half of which we spend in your own country. Brussels bureaucrats deciding how to spend UK taxpayers' money in the UK on various projects of one kind or other. The rest, between £8.5 and £10 billion, goes from the UK every year to Brussels towards the demented common agricultural policy, massively over-bureaucratic and prescriptive, that adds about £400 to the cost of food for every household in this country, and various other obscure and, I'm afraid, often corrupt projects such as Potemkin olive groves in Greece and mysterious circulation of cattle across borders in order to, through the Vatican, I seem to remember, in order to attract export refunds and all that kind of nonsense, where spending of the EU budget is so wasteful and so corrupt that the Court of Auditors, the European Court of Auditors, has not signed off the accounts for the last 20 years. So that's the offer they make to us, you know? A club that wastes our money massively, that subverts democracy in this country, takes away people's power to elect the people who take the decisions, reduces the competitiveness of the European economy, and all for no real economic benefit. That's the offer. Why would we join such a club today? Why would we join such a woefully unreformed Europe? Would anybody in their right mind join the EU as it is today? I don't think so. I don't think people in this country would want to do it. And I have to tell you, my view is that the whole thing is an anachronism now. It was set up in the 1950s, basically by French bureaucrats, in an effort to contain what they saw as the problem of renewed German economic and political dominance. And actually what has happened, of course, is that the EU has managed to intensify rather than contain that dominance. And this model of integration, trying to create a single country out of many, is being imitated nowhere else around the world. And I know that there are people who say that this country doesn't have the guts to get out, that we have no choice but to remain. And I have to say, I think they are hopelessly underestimating this country of ours and what we can achieve. Because it is precisely because we stayed out of the euro that we are now one of the most successful economies of Europe. And if we burst out of the shackles of Brussels, we would be able to begin immediately with those long neglected free trade opportunities, which we can't do at the moment. We could strike free trade deals with America, with China, with the growth economies around the world, with our officials, with UK officials being able to do those deals in the interests of great UK businesses such as this one, rather than having to rely solely and exclusively on the European Commission to strike those deals, when, if you think about it, only 4% of the officials in the Commission actually come from this country. And I think if we have the self-confidence to do that, to take back control of our money, take back control of our borders, take back the ability of the people of this country to elect and to remove at elections the people who really take decisions about this country, then I think we will be able to take this country forwards with growth and opportunities that have absolutely nothing to do with EU bureaucracy. We are not, my friends, we are not far outside London, are we? I sometimes lay claim to Dartford, but it's not really. I have to admit, it's outside the Greater London area. This area, this city, our capital city, is the home of the biggest tech cluster, the biggest growth in the whole tech sector anywhere in the high tech of all kinds. FinTech, biotech, edtech, medtech, nanotech, green tech. It's all happening in London. Of the 40 new tech companies worth more than £1 billion in the whole of Europe, 17 are from the UK, 13 are in this area. That has had absolutely nothing to do with the EU. It is not because of the EU, it owes nothing. That growth owes nothing to the EU. We are more creative than any other part of the European economy. We make more films now in London, more films and TV than virtually any other city on earth. We're going to overtake in a few years both New York and Los Angeles. We're the biggest financial capital in the world. That has nothing to do with the EU. It was so before we joined the EU, and it will be so after we leave. We export from this city, and thanks to the work of some of these amazing logistics companies which you represent, we export, I can tell you, bicycles made in London to Japan. Nothing to do with the EU. We export tea to China, from Sutton, I think. We export rice from Havering to India. We export TV aerials made in Wandsworth to Korea. And we export growing quantities of stuff of all kinds to Europe. We export, I'm proud to say, we export cake in growing quantities, a particularly dense and glutinous kind of chocolate cake. We export from Walthamstow to France. They love our cake in France. Now, I put it to you, all those who say that there would be barriers to trade with Europe if we were to do a Brexit, do you seriously believe that they would put out tariffs against UK produce of any kind when they know how much they want to sell us their cake, their champagne, their cheese from France? It is totally and utterly absurd. Is Germany really going to deprive its firms of the incredible access to capital in the City of London when we import so many of their cars? Of course they won't. Of course they won't. I think the prospects are win-win for all of us. And I think it's time to ignore the pessimists and the merchants of gloom and to do a new deal that would be good for Britain and good for Europe too. Because I think it's high time to echo exactly what Andrew was saying earlier on. It's high time that we showed a stagnant EU, and it is a stagnant European economy, burdened with too much bureaucracy. It's time to burst loose of all those regulations, get out into a world that is changing and growing and becoming more exciting the whole time, with British goods conveyed all over the place with Europa-managed logistical systems. Isn't that the right way forward? Yes, it is. Yes, it certainly is. And if we hold our nerve, and we're not timid, and we're not cowed by the Gloomadon poppers on the Remain campaign, and if we vote for freedom and for the restoration of democracy on June the 3rd, then I believe that this country will continue to grow and prosper and thrive as never before. Thank you very, very much, all of you, for listening this morning, and thank you for having me along.